Retro.
Hi, this is Emily Swallow, the Armorer in The Mandalorian. You're listening to Dennis and Jay on Podcast Stardust. This is the way.
Hello there, and welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
And I'm Jay Krebs.
And we're wrapping up another week with a look at some recent Star Wars news. Before we get into that, Jay, you want to go ahead and remind everybody where we can be found on social media?
Of course. You can always find us on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust.
All right. The digital line, the signal's boosted to maximum output. The shield is down. We are now broadcasting to the galaxy. So, to be honest, it's been a really light news week, especially coming off of the publishing news from San Diego Comic-Con. And of course, we got D23 coming up later this month. So maybe there'll be some announcements there. But we do have some things to talk about. Up first, Jay, in the past couple of weeks, we've had two Star Wars book releases. And the first was Eyes Like Stars by Ashley Poston. And then we've also had Legacy by Madeline Rue. Now, the Eyes Like Stars novels we've talked about on this podcast before is a young adult novel that is kind of a romance book that they've been talking about. And Legacy takes place between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, and it's mainly dealing with Rey and Leia's relationship as they're seeking to accomplish a few things. But anyway, have you had a chance to pick up and or look at either one of these books?
No, I have not. I have Eyes Like Stars actually reserved at my local library, so it's on hold, but somebody else has it checked out right now. And the library does not have a physical copy of Legacy, which I thought was really bizarre. So I might have to just break down and get that one on audiobook and start listening to it instead of having it on the hard book copy for now. But what about you? Have you gotten a chance to get into either one?
Well, it'll come as no surprise that I am waiting to hear what everyone else thinks about Eyes Like Stars before I get to that one.
I knew the answer to that already.
I know you did. And I'm pretty sure most of our listeners did as well. But so what can I say? That one, just as I've read its description, has not appealed to me. But I am willing to keep an open mind when I hear what others have thought about it. And I just haven't heard anything about it yet. So I may still pick that one up and read it. I have started Legacy by Madeline Rue, and I'm about 100 pages into that. I've been doing my traditional whisper sync thing, listening to some of it, reading some of it on Kindle. And what's her name? It's narrated by Saskia Marleveld, who's done a number of other books in the past couple years, and she's a good narrator. And so she does a really good Leia from the sequel trilogy voice, and she does a pretty good Rey as well. So that is that's been fun to listen to her. I can't tell if the book is just not drawing me in, or there's some other things that I really, really want to read right now. The basic plot that you can get off the jacket from the book, so I'm not spoiling anything, is that, it's between, like I said, The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. Rey is looking for a way to repair the Skywalker lightsaber. And they're also kind of dealing with the fallout from The Last Jedi. Leia's got the weight of the Resistance on her shoulders. Rey's got the weight of reforming the Jedi on her shoulders, and they just aren't clicking. And so there's some cool scenes in that first 100 pages, no doubt about it. And you get a little bit of a crew of Rey, Leia, Chewbacca, 3PO, and R2-D2 going off to Tython, of all places, to look for a forge to try and fix this lightsaber. And that's cool. It's just that once they got there, I kind of feel like the book stalled. And so I've been hesitant to get back into it. And here's the other problem. Have you heard of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series?
I have not. No.
Okay. It is really become popular, right, as of late. And the premise of that book, complete aside, sorry, this is not Star Wars, but I'm just going to throw out a plug for this series. It is it's a science fiction type of a story where all of a sudden every structure on Earth collapses, and anyone who was inside that structure or anything with a roof has perished. Everyone else had an opportunity to descend some stairs into a dungeon. Long and the short of it, aliens have come to Earth. They're going to take over the planet for its resources. But in the meantime, they're setting up a reality show that is modeled off of role-playing games and video games. And everybody, goes into these dungeons. They have to compete across levels, build up experiences like that. Fun, fascinating series.
Wow.
And I've read the first 3 books. I'm currently on the 4th one. And that's what I keep getting pulled back to because I'm really, really enjoying those books. Great character development. Intriguing. We don't know the ultimate fate of the characters. I mean, there's 8 books, so I can kind of guess that, the leads are going to survive from book to book, but regardless, unlike we know what happens with Rey and Leia. So anyways, read Dungeon Crawler Car. It's fun. And there's just kind of, like I said, they've got to Tython here, and the adventure, so to speak, is just not pulling me in at the moment. So at some point, I am going to really focus on this book and give it the attention it deserves. But at the moment, I also haven't heard really anybody say anything about it. So I don't know. Like the people I know on social media that are as avid Star Wars readers as we are, I just haven't seen any comments. And that may just be the algorithm not feeding that stuff to me. But I like I said, I just haven't heard a whole lot about it yet. So haven't had the encouragement that I was hoping for, that this has got something you have to read, you have to finish.
Yeah, I haven't seen much about it either, but quite honestly, I haven't been online a whole heck of a lot here
Mm-hmm.
lately. Just been busy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, at any rate, I am certain, at least one way or the other, at least Legacy will get covered on this show. And if you read
Oh,
Eyes
yeah.
Like Stars and like it well enough and you think I'll enjoy it, then I'll commit to reading it, and then we could discuss that one too. But anyway, so I just want to remind everybody that those books are out there because it just seems like it's been quiet for so long on the
Mhm.
Star Wars publishing front. I mean, the High Republic spoiled us.
Oh,
We
for
were getting
sure. Yeah.
a half dozen books a year. It seemed like, and for a while there, and now it's just kind of like they've backed off that. I miss that. I really miss the High Republic. I
Me
wish
too.
they would bring back, give us more adventures of Bel Sedefar and Buri Yaga and, the other characters that were still out there doing things afterwards. I you know, it was, I think, at the back of my mind, a hope for San Diego Comic-Con when they had a publishing panel that they were going to announce they were going to do some more stories of those characters, but then they didn't. I know some of them are still in that High Republic Adventures from Dark Horse series doing stuff, but I'd kind of like to see more than that.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. I know I miss it.
Yeah, I do
Bring
too.
it back.
Right. Okay. Well, then moving on, let's get into some celebration news. And as has kind of been the case for the past few months, they are steadily putting out more and more uh, celebrity guests that are going to be there. And this most recent announcement involved the cast of The Mandalorian. And they told us that Brendan Wayne, who is, of course, the suit actor for Din Djarin, Lateef Crowder, who was a stunt performer for Din Djarin, Giancarlo Esposito, who was Moff Gideon, Katie Sackhoff, who played Bo-Katan, and Emily Swallow, the armor, will all be attending Star Wars Celebration in Los Angeles next year. So I've had the opportunity to, of course, meet Giancarlo Esposito and Emily Swallow. We've talked about that quite a bit on the show before. I'm very interested in meeting Brendan Wayne, Lateef Crowder, and Katie Sackhoff and getting them to sign my Mandalorian poster. But are any of these appealing to you, Jay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I got a chance to see Giancarlo Esposito right next to who was it that it was Ian McDermott at
Mm,
Celebration, and he was there. But I didn't get a chance because I was trying to pick and choose, of course, as you do,
yeah,
when you're
you
trying to
can't meet them
budget
all.
out.
Mm,
Yeah. We'd love to, but money. But yeah, so I'd love to meet him, especially now that my husband and I are almost done watching Breaking Bad. And I know I'm very late to the party on that one, but oh my gosh, was he incredible in that as well. So, as much as I loved him as Moff Gideon, I've just really come to appreciate him so much as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also love to meet Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder because I just feel like they are just so important to the character of Din Djarin, and I'm so glad that they're both getting so many accolades and that they're being embraced as the celebrities that they are,
Mm-hmm.
as far as that is concerned. Because I have met Katie Sackhoff and I have met Emily Swallow, obviously, because she's done our bumper for us here for
Mm-hmm.
Podcast Stardust. So those would definitely be on my list,
Yeah.
though, the first three.
It was really cool that Pedro Pascal made sure that Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder got like top billing in the credits for The Mandalorian and Grogu. It was important to him, and he insisted upon those getting credit up there as opposed to just being in the cast scroll that
Mhm,
comes
mhm.
after they do the starring such and such, such and such, such and such with and blah blah blah, and then
Right, right.
directors and all that. But he made sure that they got billing there at the top of the cast, which was really cool. And yeah, I mean, because this is hearsay, but I also think there are enough outlets reported it that we can probably take it for truth. Is that it, Pedro Pascal is not on set all that often for The Mandalorian. Most of what he does is in a uh, audio studio somewhere recording the
Mhm,
lines,
mhm.
and it's these two that are on set every day. And I think it was well, I mean, Katie Sackhoff, I think, said that she didn't get an opportunity to act with Pedro Pascal all that much. So I think it's important that they get it, as you pointed out, that they get acknowledged that in that way, because they are very key to that role.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So good for them.
Yeah. And to back up what you said about Giancarlo Esposito, I met him at Star Wars Celebration Anaheim in 2022. And his line was a trip, just watching him interact with everybody.
Oh, he's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
he would come around the table and put his arm around people and do everything. And he really gets it. And he was signing Breaking Bad memorabilia and stuff like that. He had things for sale at his table. I think he kind of broke the rules that they left for
Oh, I'm
the
sure he
people,
probably did, but,
but
what are they gonna do?
he did not care. And apparently it didn't bother Lucasfilm to read Pop enough because they were having him back again.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm trying to think what the last thing I saw him was. It was The House on Netflix, I think, which is a one season mystery. His character gets murdered, and then the detective has to figure out, in the White House of all places, and then the detective has to figure out who did it. And
Ooh.
that I highly recommend that on Netflix if you haven't seen it. It's definitely worth the 8 or 9 episodes that it is. Um, he was good, and so was everybody else. And then beyond that, it might have been Captain America: Brave New World,
Mhm, mhm.
which was like what, a year or two ago. So
Anyhow, at this point, right?
yeah, I'm just not sure what else he's been in lately. I know I'm forgetting something, but and our listeners are probably screaming at us right now, or me anyway. Yeah. So anyway, I always form a plan when it comes to celebration about who I want to meet, and I've had this goal of getting autographs for that Mandalorian poster, so I'm leaning towards them.
Mhm.
But still, just looking at the people that they previously announced that I haven't met yet, Ahmed Best, Matthew Wood, Ashley Eckstein, Matt Lantern, Hayden Christensen. Those are the ones I haven't met. I've met James Arnold Taylor, Ian McDermott, Anthony Daniels, and D. Bradley Baker. Those are the other guests that they've announced there. So it's a balancing act on that. So I just don't know what I'm going to do there, but with that, but decisions,
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah, so true. And the photo ops too is another thing. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna have could you imagine if they had one big Mandalorian photo op with all 5 of
Oh,
them?
geez.
Could
That'd be
you
like
imagine
$300.
how much
Right.
that well, it'd be more than that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But, that might be that would be fun though. I mean, could you
Yeah.
imagine?
Yeah, yeah, and here's the thing, is like, we've got a pretty nice line of guests already, and,
Yeah.
I
We're
still feel like we got plenty of big ones to announce, at this point.
Mhm.
So, and, things like unless he's filming another movie somewhere, I gotta believe Ryan Gosling is going to be there. Probably not available for photo ops or autographs or anything like that, but there's got to be a panel devoted to Starfighter at Celebration. And so think of everyone else attached to that movie that might show up. And, what else? The rest of the cast of Ahsoka, because we're getting beginning season 2 sometime next year. So I suspect we're going to get a bunch of them.
Yeah,
So,
like Iman Esfandi, I'd love to meet him. He's a hoot. Oh my gosh.
yeah, just got to see him in the recent Spider-Man movie. His role wasn't very big, but he was there. So it was good to see him doing something.
Didn't know he was even going to be in it. You and I were talking off air about that movie, and I'm going to see it tomorrow. And I've literally, it has been on my radar, but not to the point where I don't even remember if I've seen a trailer. So I had no idea he was going to be in it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, not to have the entire conversation again, but since we're here, it just broke $1 billion a day or two before we're recording this, and it broke the record for opening weekend domestic box office with $360 million, beating out Avengers Endgame. I realize part of that is due to inflation over the last several years, but still, that's huge, especially in this post-COVID area where people just aren't going to the movies as often as they used to. Movies that would have been 500 million, $1 billion movies back in the 2015, 2016, 2017, that area are struggling to get $300 and $400 million these days. It's such crazy to say. You're struggling to get $340 million, but whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, since Marvel is Star Wars adjacent, go see Brand New Day if you haven't. I got to see it last week and thoroughly enjoyed it. Really, really good movie. Little different in tone than the previous 3 Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, but definitely worth your $15, $17, whatever it takes to go see a movie nowadays.
There you go. And I have to ask you, since we're on the Spider-Man conversation here, who is your go-to Spider-Man? Who's your favorite? I ask this of everyone. I'm just curious.
That is a very, very tough question, Jay. I'm tempted to say Tom Holland, and here's why. Is that, and I think part of it is because I think all 4 of his Spider-Man movies, and then if you throw in Captain America, Civil War, the Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and all the other places he's shown up as Spider-Man, he's got a bigger pool. I think his movies, his appearances in the movies are consistently better than the other 2 Spider-Man series.
Mm-hmm.
I like Tobey Maguire in the first 2 Spider-Man movies, especially Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock. I thought he was amazing in that, but that third movie was so ridiculous. And then the Amazing Spider-Man movie with Andrew Garfield, he did a great job being the quippy Spider-Man while he's fighting villains and all that stuff. Boy, I feel like I'm parroting Long Take. I just listened to them do a podcast about all the Spider-Man stuff that leading up to Brand New Day. But that was great. But those movies had some other flaws that were kind of hard to overcome, especially the second one with Electro. But so, yeah, I think for me, it's probably Tom Holland. But how about you?
My heart's still with Andrew Garfield, quite honestly. Yeah. I love Tom Holland, and I think that he is probably, as far as the character goes, the most true to the comic book feel of the character. But as far as Andrew Garfield goes, I just feel like he really portrayed Spider-Man in this, like you said, the quippy, I don't know. There's just something about his portrayal that just is always been my favorite. And then, of course, Tobey Maguire is just awesome. But like you said, there was some kind of bizarre falling apart moments in some of those movies, but yeah.
Right. So I went and saw Brand New Day at the Alamo Drafthouse, and if you're familiar with the Alamo Drafthouse at all, they do curated entertainment for that 30 minutes because the theater opens 30 minutes before the show starts. They're running behind because the theater was so packed and sold out. Then everyone sits through the credits to see the end credit scene, and there is one. You definitely need to
it's Marvel.
See it.
Come on.
Right. So we got in there late, but we were watching. They did a whole thing of like getting you up to speed on all the different Spider-Man movies that led up to Brand New Day, and that was fun to watch. But the thing about Tom Holland is that when he debuted as Spider-Man in Captain America: Civil War, he came off the most like a high schooler at the
Mhm.
time,
Oh, for
which
sure.
is Spider-Man's backstory, as
Right.
someone who got bit by a radioactive spider on a class field trip. And he carried that through. And in this Spider-Man movie, I have not kept up with a lot of the Spider-Man comics over the past couple of years, but I've read hundreds of them, and there's like 900 Spider-Man comics, or at least out there. And Tob, boy, I hate that their initials were like all so similar, but anyway, regardless, Tom Holland seemed to me to capture the angst that Peter Parker carries with him, like and like when, well, spoiler if you have not seen No Way Home, but Aunt May passes away in there, and he carries a lot of guilt for that, and I can't be with anyone because I have to protect them, and being with anyone puts them in danger and that type of stuff. But while he's Spider-Man, the quips he has with the police, I think he does the best at balancing both parts of that role, which is Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Whereas Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man, he was not as great a Peter Parker. They gave him more of a millennial skater personality that he never had in the
Mhm.
comics as Peter
Mhm.
Parker.
That's fair.
But no, I like Andrew Garfield, and I love the way he was portrayed, his version of Peter Parker, especially in No Way Home. I had the benefit of watching both Far From Home and No Way Home. They were on Freeform right before I went to see Brand New Day. And so I got to see
Oh,
those two.
wow.
I didn't turn the TV on early enough in the morning to see Homecoming, but just watching those two before going to see Brand New Day, it was really fun. Because again, I had them on the background. I wasn't watching every second of every minute of those movies. But if you get the chance, yeah, put them on and just have them on while you're doing stuff before you go see the movie, and you go into that. And that moment, I'm sorry, the thing I was going to say that I completely diverted from was that moment when he turns the other two Peters like, "I love you guys." That was
Oh,
just
yes, I love that too. Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
And then when he saves MJ as she goes plummeting off the scaffolding around
Mhm.
the Statue of Liberty, and then you could see how teared up and how choked up he was after that. That was an
Mhm.
incredibly great scene. So, all right,
They're
this
all
is not a
such good
Spider-Man.
actors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this
Oh,
is not a
Star
Spider-Man.
Wars. Hey,
Yeah.
let's talk about Star Wars.
Okay.
Sorry, listeners, but again, I have a feeling that so many of our listeners can relate and appreciate that little divergence from from the norm.
Well, I
Thanks
suspect
for
sometime
sticking with
next.
us.
Yeah, we'll probably be talking about in the near future what roles Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland should be playing in Star Wars at some point,
Oh,
but
heck yeah. Get
not
them
this
on the
podcast.
cast. Yeah, absolutely.
There has been an announcement from Wizards of the Coast that they are doing a collaboration between Dungeons and Dragons and Star Wars. So we're going to be getting some sort of a Star Wars role-playing game using, I guess, the Dungeons and Dragons rule set.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's been a few years since I played Dungeons and Dragons. I got to do a part of a campaign with some other podcasters that was hosted by Tom Gross, our friend from Teachers in the Dungeon. I think we did that over COVID, but regardless, that was fun doing. And I used to play it a lot as a teenager and had a good time then. I've played various Dungeons and Dragons video games, Baldur's Gate 3, which we brought up on this show. And we're not going to dive into all the details about that because, again, this is a Star Wars podcast. But and we've already diverted on Spider-Man long enough. But this is extremely intriguing. I don't know that it's anything I'm ever going to pick it up because I just don't have a group to play Dungeons and Dragons with. But I am really, really curious to see how this turns out. It's going to be set during the season of rebellion. So I'm assuming they mean the original trilogy era or the era that, the Rebels era type of place. But yeah, you already said that sounds cool. But what else do you think about this?
Well, I was looking at the article, and the name that really stood out to me in here is R.A. Salvatore as
Mm-hmm.
being a big part of the content, like helming the content program.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, I know that this person has been so integral in the books. And what did they do? So I looked it up, and Vector Prime, which is the
Yep.
first book in the New Jedi Order, because of course, Yuzan Vong, hello. And then the Attack of the Clones novelization. So I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like this is a perfect fit to have someone like that on board with this. And I just think this is so cool. And I have fallen out of the D&D realm for a very long time, other than playing like Baldur's Gate online and that type of thing. But it's so awesome that they're doing this. I just think it's such a great, leaning into the role playing aspect of things for Star Wars just makes so much sense.
Yeah, I'm literally
I'm
looking at a
excited.
couple dozen R.A. Salvatore novels on my shelf. I loved his Dres Duorden series that he did. I never, I don't know that's necessarily finished, but I haven't read like the last several. And that one, he wrote a lot in that realm, and I
Okay.
really liked his work. The poor guy still gets grief over being the one who, spoiler. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to skip forward if you don't want to know anything about the New Jedi Order, if you haven't read it. But he gets a lot of grief over being the guy who wrote the death of Chewbacca in Vector Prime in the New Jedi
Oh,
Order.
yes.
And he's been a lot of cons talking about how he was very excited to get the opportunity to write a Star Wars book, and then they told him what they wanted him to do, and he's like, "No, thank you, I am not
Right.
going to do that." But he ended up doing it, and I've seen funny pictures of at different cons where Chewbacca strangling him, and so it's
Oh gosh.
yeah, but I didn't realize that that RSL Tower was going to be involved, and that's very encouraging. I
Yeah,
loved Vector Prime.
me
Chewbacca's death
too.
aside, I really enjoyed that book. It was such a great kickoff. I thought it was disappointing that was the only one he wrote in that entire series. I thought they should have given him a chance to write more, but or maybe he just didn't want to. I don't know, but or the
Mhm,
fan response made it not worth it to him. But um,
mhm.
would love to get. I'd love to see them get him back to write some Star Wars, some novels. So hopefully we can get that someday.
Yes, that would be fantastic. And I'm sure, it probably, as you said at the time with Vector Prime, a lot
Mm.
of backlash. And thankfully, it wasn't in the day and age of the internet that we live in now. Could you imagine the poor guy?
Yeah,
But I'm glad that he's a good sport about doing publishing panels and that type of thing. Because I mean, how could you not be?
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
I would go to a con just to get his autograph in one of my books because I spent a lot of time. I mean, I've been reading his stuff for 35, 40 years.
Hmm.
So yeah, I go way back
Yeah,
with
that'd be
his work.
awesome.
Yeah.
There you
All right.
go.
Well,
Get him at
let's get
Celebration. That needs to be another one there.
Give it at Fan Expo Dallas. I'll go meet him there. All right. Last story we got for this, and this is just fun, but Ewan McGregor and Anne Hathaway are out promoting their new sci-fi movie, The End of Oak Street. God, some of these actors are so busy this year. We were just talking about Spider-Man. Tom Holland and Zendaya were both in that and The Odyssey. Anne Hathaway was in The Odyssey, and now she's in this. And she was also in The Devil Wears Prada 2 this year, so she's had a big year. I'm not sure if Ewan McGregor's done something else this year, but neither here nor there. So, anyways, they're promoting this movie, and so they were doing an Inquiring Minds segment for Esquire online, where they're given a stack of cards and they take turns asking each other questions. And it was a 7-minute video, but there was a pretty significant portion of it that were Star Wars questions. Did you watch the whole thing, or did you get a chance to check this thing out?
I was able to check out the highlights that you
Mhm.
had put into our notes. I'll be honest, I did not get a chance to sit down and watch the entire thing, but I'm definitely going to have to now.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed watching this. I don't know if I'm going to go see that movie or not, if it's going to work in my schedule, but maybe I'll just save it for when it comes home on streaming. But regardless, so the Star Wars portions of this, I have no idea what that movie is about. So I'm not even going to try to opine because I didn't look it up. The beginning of the video is a little bit of a, like they do so oftentimes, it's a teaser or something else gets told or talked about later in the video. So we'll skip past that for now. But the first Star Wars question comes at 1 minute and 10 seconds, where Anne asks Ewan what the weirdest place is that a Star Wars fan has approached him. And the response was the urinal. I got to appreciate the class with which he talked about that. It's kind of like, people come up to me and they're like, hey, good to see you, with like their hand out for shaking his hands, like
Yeah.
maybe later. And so, he like usually they're good enough to like wait outside the bathroom and then we'll meet or whatever. But Ewan's got such a great sense of humor. I thought that was such a fun moment.
Oh, truly. And he's always so great with fans because I know I've seen him do interviews on that before and where people will pull up next to him, especially when he's riding his motorcycle.
Hmm.
And, they'll pull up to him in an intersection or they'll, see him at a grocery store or whatever. And there was one that I can't repeat exactly what was said because it has an explicative in it, but
Yeah.
someone said, "That's Obi-Wan Kenobi." And of course, to
Yeah.
hear Ewan say it in his Scottish accent as opposed to his Obi-Wan accent is even greater because you could just tell that Ewan relishes the idea of being Obi-Wan, number one, and also number two, that the fans love him the way that they do. And he does it in such a humble way, but yet, a genuine way, which I think is just fantastic.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll get into more about that in a little bit later. But the next thing that came up was about 4 minutes and 45 seconds of this video. And the question was, who would Anne Hathaway play in Star Wars? And this idea is fascinating. But she's talking about how she would be Anakin's evil daughter and a half sister to Luke and Leia is a role that she can. Now, it was in passing. I don't know that she put a whole lot of thought behind it, but just the way she just kind of blurted that out, I was like, that's that's intriguing. What did you think about it?
Well, it's very interesting to say the least. It's
Mhm.
it's just really cool that so many of the actors and actresses in Hollywood are so all about being in Star Wars. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I don't care who it is that and we've talked about this plenty of times before that so many actors and actresses are just like, I don't care what the role is, just give me a role, in Star
Yeah.
Wars and I'll be happy.
Yeah, but they're just sitting there tossing these ideas back and forth about like, Anakin's daughter, but it couldn't be Padme's daughter because she wouldn't have done anything like that. And or they wouldn't have had another children that they didn't know, that Padme wouldn't have known about. So I don't know how big a Star Wars fan she is, but she actually talked about Star Wars in a way that seemed like she was knowledgeable. She's just throwing names out there, which is not hard to do because it is part of the cultural zeitgeist. But still, just this idea of there being this, tell us an infinity story if you want. I don't care. But this idea is really intriguing to me that, it does not fit with our continuity right now. It just doesn't, because we've got comics that fill up everything that happened between A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. Now they're starting to tell Luke and Leia and Han stories after Return of the Jedi in comics. We've already got some of that in the aftermath novels and stuff like that. But this idea that something might have happened where Anakin had another daughter with somebody else that would be like an older sibling to Luke and Leia, or could it be some sort of look what happened to Rey? It was a clone of Palpatine, the
Mhm.
daughter of a clone of Palpatine. Do something like that to give this like step sibling to Luke and Leia. I think the story possibilities are endless with that one. I'm very, very intrigued.
Yeah, it's a very entertaining idea to say the least. That's for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah. And then the other possibility that came up over the course of this is that the question about what Ewan would like to do with Obi-Wan. And he's like, I want to do something that fills in that 10 years between the end of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and A New Hope and what Alec Guinness did.
Mhm.
And she threw out there is like I was like, did they have a conversation? Because she just said something like going on your quest to find Yoda. Did you notice how casually she just said that like it was a thing? I'm trying not to read too deeply into that, but I was like, did they talk about something that might have been, because I've been thinking back to Ewan McGregor's appearances at various cons over the years. And, he's been telling fans, it's like, I think it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. And they seem to have some sort of idea. And she just throws this out there, like your quest to go find Yoda. I'm like,
Like,
wait,
she's been
wait,
thinking about it, yeah.
yeah, like, did they talk about that before they filmed this segment? Where did that come from?
Quite possibly, I mean, just like you and I talk about things off air before
Mhm.
we hop on the mic, perhaps there was a few moments that they were able to talk about
Yeah.
things, and especially since they've been, in this movie is the end of Oak Street
Yeah.
together. I mean,
Mhm.
there's gotta be some times off camera where they're just, riffing about Star Wars, perhaps. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know?
Now, the one thing that works against what everything I'm suggesting and saying is that if this really was a big deal, there would be an NDA involved, and someone would probably tell Esquire, can you cut that out of your video? But
good point.
So I don't want to, I don't want to get my hopes up or set anyone's expectations for that. But just, I don't know. I like Anne Hathaway. I think she would be a great addition to Star Wars if she were to get a role doing something. I haven't even seen like her biggest movies, but I remember her being in The Dark Knight, and I've seen her in Ocean's 8 and several other movies. But she was in The Odyssey. I thought she was amazing in that as Penelope. So I think she would be a fantastic addition to Star Wars if they could find a role for her. So why not?
There you go.
All right. Okay. Well, wow, we turned not much Star Wars news into a longer than average episode of Star Wars news.
Yeah.
So I think it's time to go ahead and wrap this one up, but not without us saying thank you all for joining us for this episode of Podcast Stardust and our discussion of the week's Star Wars news. We hope you've enjoyed the discussion. And if you haven't already gone ahead and done so, please subscribe to the podcast. A lot of people catch the show here and there, but we really appreciate it if you could go ahead and take that extra step, subscribe and get those downloads. And to hear everything that we've got going on, we reached out to a listener and friends who talked about how the news at the end of every week was his favorite part of the show. And I love that we can bring that to y'all. But beyond that, if you want to do the things like, rate, review, comment on your podcatcher choice, those things also help us out and are greatly appreciated by myself and Jay. And if you want to find even more episodes of Podcast Stardust beyond your podcatcher choice, head over to retrozapp.com. All previous 1,067 episodes are there, as well as all the other great shows that are on the network. Jay, you want to remind everybody where else we can be found online and social media one more time?
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you to those who have reached out to us, because it's always so great to know that we're part of your day, part of your commute, just part of your existence overall. So that is the best compliment to us for sure. And if you want to continue to connect with us, you can do so on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust. And you can always check out our plethora of Pinterest boards for so many different fun ideas for everything Star Wars. And I need to get back over there and do some more updates. So I will get on that ASAP. And then if you want even more places to download and listen to the show, you can do so on YouTube and YouTube Music, as well as Spotify, Audible, literally anywhere that you can find podcasts, you will find us. And if you don't, for whatever reason, please let us know, because Dennis is a whiz at getting us wherever we need to be. And if you'd like to drop us a line, especially if it's not something that fits tidily into a DM or such, you can do so at our email address, which is podcaststardust@gmail.com. And if you want to show your love for Podcast Stardust out in the wild, you can do so by picking up a product from our TeePublic store. So the link to that will be in our show notes, and you can get everything from t-shirts and sweatshirts to coffee mugs and ball caps and even socks and workout wear. So no matter where you go, you can spread the Podcast Stardust love.
All right. Upcoming on the show on Monday, we're beginning our coverage of The Ninth Jedi with a look at the first episode of that series. They're all out now, but Jay and I are choosing to cover them an episode at a time at this moment. And then on Wednesday, we're going to step back into the realm of comics by looking at the prequel series to Maul Shadowlord. This is called Shadow of Maul. We're going to look at the first 2 issues in that. But with that said, thanks for listening to episode 1068 Podcast Stardust, everyone. Have a great weekend, and until next time, may the Force be